morning. I didn't have no doubt. Woke up this morning. I didn't have no doubt. I woke up this morning. I didn't have no doubt that my creator would bring me out. Oh, I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt. I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt. I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt that my creator would bring me out. Mm. I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt. I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt. I woke up this morning and I didn't have no doubt. No doubt my creator would bring me out. Mm. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pressers On. I feel invigorated. I feel energized to keep on keeping on. And that is what is most important to me this morning. It is Monday Motivation, but it is also Women's History Month, Melanated March, Black History Month, and we are doing our Women's History segments, and we're focusing in, obviously, on Black women. On my page, you will find a segment that I just wrote about how I woke up this morning. And in particular, I woke up from a dream where I was talking to my grandmother has passed away. She passed away, transitioned, as some might say, went on to be with her creator in 2019. And in this dream, she was kind of sitting like this, talking to me. And it was such a beautiful experience in the dream. She was telling me about how she got weary sometimes from the work that she was doing. My grandmother was a well known community activist in South Florida. She helped to bring Head Start services and health services to South Florida, to small rural communities that did not have those services. And I benefited directly from her work because I entered Head Start when I was 4 years old, which enabled me to go to school earlier than most children were going at the time. I took an early entrance test into school and I was able to start my education very early at 4 years old. And so as I was listening to her in this dream, I felt this energy, this encouragement, this empowerment coming towards me. And then I woke up and then some grief hit me because I realized, man, I don't have that voice in this life to guide me the way that she was guiding me before she transitioned. But what I do have is I have her work. I have her memory, right? I have that memory that lives in me, in my DNA, as being part of her lineage. And so I woke up this morning with a renewed sense of urgency. I woke up this morning with a renewed sense of importance for the work that needs to be done, but also for the work that I do. And so I'm very excited this morning to continue to share with you this work. And part of this work for me is making sure that people know our history. Part of this work for me is making sure the next generation has what they need, making sure they're literate, making sure they know our history, and not just this next generation in terms of children, but also this next generation in terms of just people in general. And so last week I heard somebody say, man, we need some clubs for women. We need to get back to spaces for ourselves? And I said, yeah, we do, because we've had those things before. It was the early 1900s. It was before the 1900s that we had those things in place already. We were creating spaces for ourselves already. And it wasn't necessarily about being shut out of places, but it was the fact that we wanted to create spaces for ourselves where we could talk amongst ourselves, where we could enjoy one another's presence and company and learn from each other. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. I want to start out by sharing today with you a woman artist. Some of you may have heard her name before, but her name is Kara Walker. Kara, Kara Walker. And I'm going to show you some of her artwork in a moment. Kara Walker was born in 1969 in Stockton, California. She lives and works in at the time of this printing, she was living and working in Rhode Island, New York. She is still a living artist. Following her highly acclaimed solo exhibition in New York in 1995, it was the 1997 Whitney Biennial that drew attention of the international art world to Kara Walker's life-size works on paper using the cutout silhouette technique that has come to be regarded as a hallmark for her work. From a self-referential base, Kara explores themes of identity and ethnicity in the USA, shaped by colonialism and enslavement. The contrast of black cardboard against the white gallery walls heightened the sense of the silhouette as a medium, creating by outlining and leaving the inner areas unaltered. Walker takes her figures from the 19th century stereotypes of what was called slavery literature, presenting the violent treatment of enslaved people and sometimes the sexist attacks on females who were enslaved in the form of a Victorian style visual novella. The satire in the blend of literary genre and the invented narrative is evident at only a second glance when the scenes actually reveal their disturbing and cruel undertow. For at first, the eye only recognizes the Victorian costumes that harmonize with the technique of the silhouette. Although Walker bases her portrayals on stereotypes, she does not stop at simply polarizing such aspects of power and ethnicity like slave or master or black and white, but actually parodies these things, presenting the roles in ways that are far more complex. For example, Walker scenes, in her scenes, women also commit acts of violence. And so um, here is one of her pieces. Let's see. And they're showing you, this is actually a cardboard cutout. And you can sort of see in this particular one, it's, a family that's likely on the run, but you see that they're being stopped by this so-called angel. You're seeing them being stopped by this so-called angel, and that angel is sort of pouring out some kind of substance. Well, if you're looking interpretively, what could that substance be? I mean, besides whiteness, right? It looks like they're trying to make their way, they're trying to escape. But then this idea of whiteness, of where their place is supposed to be in the world, and of course, with that religious undertone, sort of stops them. It stops them. So that's one example of Kara Walker's work. And as said, we would return to the Supreme Actresses book. So let me get that for you. And today in here, we're going to look at Jennifer Lewis. If you're looking for collector's books, this is one I recommend. It's called Supreme Actresses, Iconic Black Women Who Revolutionized Hollywood. And today we're going to be reading about Jennifer Lewis. Let me get my page. Okay. Last time we focused in on, who did we focus in on? Monique. But today we are focusing in on Jennifer Lewis. And this is a lovely, I think this is a great photograph that kind of captures her essence. Jennifer Lewis. So let's learn a little bit more about Jennifer. Let's see. That is not her. Don't tell me they don't have a write-up, because that's not good. They don't have a write-up. I'll give you her filmography, and then I will find a write-up about her really quickly. So films that we know Jennifer Lewis from: What's Love Got to Do with It? The Preacher's Wife, Jackie's Back, Medea's Family Reunion, The Princess and the Frog. Most people are familiar with her television work: A Different World, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Girlfriends, Strong Medicine, and Black-ish. Jennifer Lewis has also appeared in theater in Eubie, Coming Uptown, Rock and Roll, The First 5,000 Years, and Hairspray. And good morning to those of you who are coming in. So let's do a little digging on Jennifer Lewis, the actress. She's really more than an actress. Here in these last years, she has been advocating for women in Hollywood. Jennifer Jeanette Lewis, she's born on my late father-in-law's birthday. Born January 25th, 1957. She's an American actress and singer. She began her career appearing in Broadway musicals and worked as a backup singer for Bette Midler before appearing in films Beaches and Sister Act. I knew she was in Sister Act. I knew there was another film we were missing. Lewis is known for playing roles of mothers in films: What's Love Got to Do with It?, Poetic Justice, The Preacher's Wife, The Brothers, The Cookout, Think Like a Man, and in the sequel, Think Like a Man 2, Baggage Claim, The Wedding Ringer, as well as the Temptations miniseries in 1998. She was born in Kinloch, Missouri, and educated at Webster University. She is a living actress. And she is known unofficially as the mother of Black Hollywood, given her frequent matriarchal film and television roles. So a lot of people are like, well, how did she come to be known as the mother of Black Hollywood? Because of her iconic roles as mothers in film. Some people specialize in certain roles, and for her, it has been the role of the mother. Let's see what else we have here. She received an honorary doctorate of humane letters degree from Webster University in 2015. And let's see what else we have here. Let's see. Okay, Lewis revealed that she had been engaged 4 times but never married. She has an adoptive daughter named Charmaine Lewis. In 2015, she was defrauded by a romance scheme con man, which was detailed in the 2022 episode Financial Infidelity of the series American Greed. In 1990, Lewis was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She originally hid her diagnosis as she felt ashamed, but eventually came to embrace it after 17 years of therapy and 10 years of medication. In 2014, she said, "You have to look in the mirror and say, before you can go or grow into anything, you have to say you love yourself." And I really, really believe that. In 2022, Lewis sustained life-threatening injuries. And I watched this interview that she was talking about this. She sustained life-threatening injuries after falling 10 feet from her hotel balcony in the Serengeti. She was airlifted to Nairobi, where she underwent a 9-hour surgery, followed by a 6-day ICU stay. In April 2024, Lewis made remarks about the former, now back present person in office, comparing him to the person who operated the German Reich. So that is Jennifer Lewis. I really appreciate how boldly she stands up for people. Anytime I've seen her giving an interview, she's always positive, always uplifting, always encouraging women to be themselves, to stand up for themselves, and to just not take crap. Shout out to Jennifer Lewis. All right, last reading for today is coming from the book Without Fear. I think this is a book every woman needs, but particularly Black women. Without Fear, Black Women and the Making of Human Rights by Keisha N. Blaine. She was in, I think she was at our area a couple months back in the DC area giving a book talk on this. But we started talking about the Black Women's Club movement, and we're going to keep going and finish that up. And hopefully we might get into my friend behind us, Ida B. Wells. Ida is I'll show you guys a little bit more over here. Ida is my daily inspiration. Daily. That painting is 4 by 4 feet, because when I get up in the morning and I come in for my day and I am writing or teaching or coaching or doing what I'm doing now, which is reading, she is my inspiration outside of my immediate descendants, my grandmothers, who are my priority inspiration. But she is my inspiration for the writing that I do. She's my inspiration to keep the focus on justice. She is my inspiration for uplifting people in general. She is my inspiration for not stopping when other people try to stop you and literally run you out of town. She is my inspiration for pivoting even as an educator. She couldn't even continue in her own career as an educator because people stood in the way of her being an educator. So she pivoted her career to journalism. And even with that, she still got ran out of town because of the kind of journalism that she was doing. And then she pivoted again to create a center for men to find employment as they moved from the Great Migration from the South to the North. So she was always pivoting, but she was still always serving her people. And so that's an encouragement to me every single day, that I'm reminded that you can keep going, you can pivot if need be, and you can continue to serve people. So let's talk about these Black women's clubs, okay? We talked about how they started around 1896, 1897, and the purpose of these Black women clubs they were providing an array of resources, including homes for the elderly, right? They were not waiting for somebody to figure out what to do with their elders. They were creating homes for the elderly. They were creating childcare spaces. Again, they were not waiting for people to figure out what to do with young children in the community. They were creating childcare spaces, and they were making sure that the poor had food. They fought for racial uplift and political rights, and they emphasize racial pride and the value of education. I want to be very clear in pointing this out, that there's not really a time where Black women are just, oh, we're just in our ease and we're not caring about anybody and we're just, sitting back in our bubble baths. No, that is part of being a woman, right? But for Black women, we were still doing other things. We've sort of never really had that luxury of just sitting back in ease and not caring about our community. And no shade to anyone else, but in our culture, that hasn't been the modus operandi, to not care about your community, to not care about the poor, to not care about children, to not care about the elderly. That's not a cultural, that has not been a cultural norm for us. And I would hope that it wouldn't be, because we see what happens when people stop caring for their communities. All right. While these ideals were at the core of the Black Women's Club movement, they were by no means the women's only focus. All right. It wasn't the only focus. Much like early activists and intellectuals, African American club women of the late 19th century promoted, here's the thing, here's the word that America can't seem to wrap itself around, an expansive vision of freedom that reflected their dual commitment to securing civil and human rights. Just check our track record. Black women haven't just been about Black people. We've been about securing human rights. And so when somebody says, well, whether we have Jasmine or whether we have James, it doesn't make a difference because they're both good, you fail to understand the history. You fail to understand that Black women have always carried and secured civil rights and human rights for everyone. And so, yes, you will feel the difference of what happens when a Black woman is not representing you. It's going to be different. I don't want people to get in their mind that he's going to operate the way she would. He's not Black and he's not a woman. And you had two intersections of the most marginalized that could have been a representative. But no, you chose somebody who can't identify with Blackness and can't identify with womanhood. And as a matter of fact, leans into the kind of evangelical Christianity that will say that the person with 34 felons is not really such a bad person. That's what y'all chose to lean into. Let's be clear. That representation is going to look a whole lot different than what you were getting. I'm just saying. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you, it's going to be the representation is not going to look the same, and it's not going to feel the same, no matter how good you feel about the choice that was made. Woman's Era, the first nationally distributed newspaper published by and for Black women, provides a window into Black club women's ideas on human rights during the 19th century. Established in 1894 by club woman Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin and funded with the help of, what? A women's magazine funded with the help of, say it with me, paid subscriptions. Yeah, not new to 2024, people. Paid subscriptions. And I want to thank the people that actually pay I want to thank all followers, all subscribers, but paid subscriptions do help. They do matter. That's money that I get to use directly to help the disenfranchised in my community directly. We get people, the We Dare Squad, we get people messaging us monthly. Hey, do you guys have some funds to distribute? Hey, I need gas money. Do you guys have some funds to distribute? Hey, I need a couple of more dollars for lunch this week. I'm out of food. Do you guys have some money to distribute? Hey, I need bus fare to get me through this week. I just need $10. Do you guys have some money to distribute? Hey, I need a couple of more dollars to help me get some things in my grocery list. Do you guys have some money to distribute? And so, no, right now, because we don't have a lot of paid subscriptions, we're not doling out hundreds of dollars. We're not. But what we are doling out is helping people. So whether that's $10 or $20 or $25 or $50, it's helping people to keep on moving forward. And so when you look at my subscription on Facebook is only $2.99. But that adds up when you have multiple people that are choosing to pay the subscription. I have Patreon. People subscribe on Patreon. I have Substack. People subscribe on Substack. So we pull all of that together and then we look at what are the needs in our community and we start meeting those needs. And when we're out of funds, it's a terrible feeling to turn somebody away when they message you and say, hey, I really need this. Do you guys have more funds available? And I have to say, I apologize, but we really don't. However, if you check back in with us at the top of the next month, we will have more funds and we'll put you down as one of the first people that we help. So paid subscriptions, that support does matter, right? A lot of people who are doing this work, they're not spending the money on themselves. Most of us, like me, I run 3 businesses. So you're not funding my lifestyle. I fund my lifestyle. Okay. So a lot of people who are doing this work, they're saying, can you help us? Can you subscribe? Can you add to our mutual fund? I help other content creators too, but I do that from my own funds. And so if you can subscribe, you don't have to subscribe to me. You might be here for the first time, listening to me for the first time, and you're like, I don't really know that person. That's okay. But subscribe to someone you know. Subscribe to someone whose voice that you listen to every day, whose page you come to for motivation and inspiration every single day. If they have subscription, subscribe to them. Let them know tangibly, if you can, that you appreciate what it is that they're putting out into the world. And maybe you can't subscribe every month, but if they have a site like Cash App or Venmo or Buy Me a Coffee, sometimes when I hear a really good message from somebody or somebody has informed me on something that I did not know, I go find their Buy My Coffee link, their Venmo, their Cash App, and I give them some money and I say, thank you for teaching. That's it. And I keep it moving. But we have to encourage each other in this work. So they funded it with the help of paid subscriptions. Woman's Era was published in Boston and developed into a nationally circulated paper. The writers whose words graced the pages of Woman's Era were a dynamic group of Black club women, including Ruffin, Chicago-based club woman and lecturer Fannie Barrier Williams, and New York-age journalist Victoria Earl Matthews. Woman's Era represented a counter. Why do we need these publications? It represented a counter to mainstream white media outlets that marginalize Black women's ideas. Why do I feel like I'm reading 2026? They've been at this for a long time, guys. It didn't just start in 2020. It didn't just start in 2024. It didn't just start with media outlets being bought up like monopoly pieces in 2026. This buying up, this um, synthesizing and conglomerating all media so that it only has a narrow viewpoint. And in our case, unfortunately, in America, a far right viewpoint, a anti-human viewpoint, an anti-diversity viewpoint. All of that, this is not the only era that we've seen it. It's just new players, same spirit, new players. So they use this to counteract these outlets who were marginalizing Black women's ideas. They want us to go to the back of the bus so bad. They want some people to go back in the closet. I woke up the other morning with this thought in mind, and I heard a thought that said, they want some people back into the closet. They want some people back into the fields. They want some people back into the kitchen. But nobody is going back. Oh, they can push, they can prod, and they can push. But people are not going back. They're not. You can even make space for them to go back, but they're not going back. So keep that in mind. In it, Black women found a public forum for the myriad social issues of the day, including civil rights, racial violence, discrimination, and racial uplift. The monthly paper debunked stereotypical representations of Black women, such as when they condemned the racist remarks of John Jacks, the president of the Missouri Press Association. In 1895, Jacks had written a letter to white suffragist Florence Balgarnie, a feminist and pacifist in the UK, and he had the nerve to write to another woman in another country describing Black women as prostitutes and saying they are naturally liars and thieves. Where's his descendants? John Jacks. Balgarnie shared the letter with Ruffin, who then disseminated it to other women's clubs. Ruffin and her associates wasted no time in addressing these reprehensible remarks, and they went a step further by organizing the first national conference of colored women. Too long have we been silent under unjust and unholy charges, she wrote. We cannot expect to have them removed until we disprove them through ourselves, she argued at the conference. For Ruffin and the other Black women who came together, the newly formed group, as well as the platform within the Pages of Women's Era, provided collective opportunities for Black women to publicly challenge racism and discrimination. So when somebody's saying, oh, you're just a little content creator, oh, you are just posting, oh, you don't really have any impact. I want to remind you that social media is where the public is. Yes, there are other places, obviously, but there are billions of people here. Billions with a B. And so if you want to correct a narrative about yourself or about women or about anything, you don't retreat from the spaces where you have the opportunity to correct the narrative. And people want you to retreat from the space. That's why they're amping up the foolishness. That's why the bots are increasing. That's why the trolling is increasing. That's why the heads of these platforms are allowing you to be talked about in a certain way. That's why it does not go against their community standards, because they want to encourage you to get out of the public space and out of the public discourse. But no, when you remove yourself from the public discourse, then they get to flood the zone with more propaganda about who you are. So no, you can make 5 million pages about what you think about Black people. That's propaganda. And I'm going to still be here doing what I do to counteract your propaganda. And every other content creator who is out here showing the truth and the beauty and the reality and the challenges and the uplift and the struggle, we're still going to be here to counteract those narratives. They want you to retreat, but our ancestors understood that if you retreat, they get to control the narrative. So don't retreat today. The paper significantly bolstered Black women's morale and amplified their voices during a period when their ideas were rarely taken seriously. Somebody doesn't take your ideas seriously. Somebody calls you Delulu for thinking that you can do what you can do. Who cares? Keep going. Let them call you whatever. You just know what you are. You just know what you are and keep going. As editor Fannie Berrier Williams explained in a letter to the newspaper's readers, the woman's era is the face of our colored women turned upward to the star of hope. While the newspaper emphasized domestic issues and their movement, it also captured professional Black women's broad vision of human rights. To thousands of our women, Fannie Berrier Williams observed in 1894, the paper will come as the first intimation of the wideness of the world about them and the stretch of human interest and sympathy. The time is fast coming, Ruffin declared in 1895, when individual and class needs may all be safely merged into the broader interest of our common humanity and a spirit of mutual respect and confidence between women of all classes and races be quickened thereby. It wasn't just about the message that they wanted to send to Black women. They understood eventually this needs to cover all women. It's 2026. We're still in the space where some women get it and some women don't. We're still in the space where some women are still siding with patriarchy and some women have said, you know what? Siding with this is not going to be helpful for humanity. We're still there. Black women in Knoxville, Tennessee, expressed similar sentiments in a short article on their formation of the Women's Mutual Improvement Club. They said, too long have we turned a deaf ear, a blind eye, to the direct and indirect appeals of humanity, but never more shall it be thus. We have put our hands to the plow and shall not turn back. With united aims, united hopes, and united prayers, we join the never-ending warfare of good against evil. We join the never-ending warfare of good against evil. They knew in 1895 that it's a never-ending warfare. And so, do soldiers get weary? Yes. Do soldiers get tired? Yes. If you must rest, please go rest. And I can tell you right now, there are certain people who have been in this fight so long that they're starting to get irritated. They're starting to get cynical. They're starting to shoot their fellow comrades. I'm gonna need y'all to take a seat Sit down. If you've done the work of raising up other people, I'm going to need you to say, you know what? I need to rest this round. I need to rest this lap. Here's the baton. I'm going to need you to run on for me while I take this rest, while I take this break, while I recalibrate myself, while I go and remind myself of why I'm in this to begin with. That's where we are. Because it's a never ending warfare, but that doesn't mean that you're the one supposed to be fighting it forever. We all have to do our part in helping the next generation pick up the baton. Because one thing I'm going to give the far right credit for, one thing I'm going to give them credit for, is they know how to raise up the next generation of evildoers. Let me sip my juice. If it's one thing they're good at, they are good at raising up the next generation of evildoers. They are good at raising up the next generation that wants to burn crosses and bring belts to school and whip your children. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Because some of y'all are like, how are these little kids still doing this? Because they're raising them up. They're raising them up. They're keeping their rituals of dehumanization of other people going. They're hosting little pseudo supremacy conferences for young people. So if there's anything that we can learn, is we got to be just as diligent about raising up children that care about human and civil rights as they are about raising up children that do not. I'm telling you. The themes of unity and collective action for the sake of political progress ran throughout the pages of Woman's Era. Victoria Earl Matthews, editor and writer for the New York section, passionately appealed to Black women readers not to sit idly by as other people vilified Black women. This is not to say that Black women don't deserve criticism when they are wrong or out of pocket. She's talking about the overall propaganda that was happening and stereotyping that was happening of an entire demographic. Woman's Era writers worked to build greater awareness of the need for demanding universally expanded rights and opportunities. In an 1894 editorial entitled Women in Politics, Fannie Barrier Williams reminded readers that the struggle for women's rights was deeply connected to broader discussions of rights of all people in every part of the world. According to Williams, nothing in the whole social progress of humanity is more interesting and more suggestive of the persistency of rightness than the steady gain of womankind in those larger relationships of human life and civilization. In another article, she extolled the virtues of truth and argued that individuals who pursued truth, such as revolutionary leaders John Brown and the Haitian general Toussaint Louverture, were vital to human progress. So these were not just women who understood that human rights is for everybody, right? They were also women who understood that there are men who fight for the human rights of all. If you're going to lean in to a community of men, those are the men you should be leaning into. Men who fight for the collective human rights of all people. Where are those men? One is going to come on and talk to me because those. Let me just say this: those are the only kind of men I mess with. I rock with. I don't use the F word, but those are the men in my life. Understand, if women are not here, none of us are here. I don't have to argue with men in my life about the importance of women's place in the world. I'm not having arguments with men about that. I'm not even entertaining arguments with men about that. I'm not going to sit on a panel with men who think that I don't have a rightful place in the world. I don't do panels with people who think that I'm less than them. So don't bring me on the panel because you're going to get your feelings hurt. I don't do that. The premise has to be we are equals. That's the premise. That's the premise. If that's not your premise, don't ask me to come. I have turned down panels because I've looked at who is on the lineup and I said, they don't think women are equal. They don't think women are equal. They sure don't think women are equal. You won't be calling me out my name. You won't be calling me anything other than Shantae. So I don't allow people to put me in spaces where I already know that they feel a certain way about women. We're not doing that. So connecting to men who understand that women are vital to human progress. Yeah. Not surprisingly, the newspaper is full support to the woman that we're going to talk about hopefully next Monday. To anti-lynching crusader Ida B. Wells during the 1890s, praising her efforts to spread the light of truth in the United States and abroad. And if you're wondering what I'm reading from, this well-researched and studied work, Without Fear, Black Women and the Making of Human Rights. Highly recommend, I'm just reading excerpts from this book, but highly recommend that you pick up your own copy, okay? Pick up your own copy. What does my shirt say? This comes from my own company. My shirt says contemplative activist. An activist? What is a contemplative activist? An activist that sits with God and stands with the oppressed. That's what we do over here. All right. We believe in the power of our spiritual life to invigorate us, to help us carry out the work that we need to carry out in this plane. We believe in the power of the ancestral plane. We believe in the power of our ancestors and what they have empowered us with through our genetics. It's in us to do certain things. As you can see, as we were reading today, it's very clear that some of these same things that were important to our ancestors then are still important to us now. So you may not have known any of the women that we introduced you to today, but I know that if you're a Black woman, you can definitely identify with some of their sentiments. We've got to have places and spaces where we can encourage each other, uplift each other, empower each other, talk about the things that are important to our community. That is a universal Black woman thought. We've got to have publications, right, that showcase who we truly are, that don't put us down, that don't degrade us, that don't show us in just this demeaning light. That's a universal thought about Black women. Before we had Black Girls Rock, right? We had Black women's clubs that were doing some of that same work. We're just in a new generation. We're in a new iteration of it. So I want to encourage you, because we're going to head over to YouTube for our talk back. If you're interested in joining us over there, the YouTube page is Life Nation KC. You can join us over there for our talk back. And we're going to talk about what we have read today. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. This has been another episode of Black Table Talk, our Women's History Edition. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to evil. So go out and be light. If we don't see you over on our YouTube page, we hope that you have a great and wonderful day. Signing out, share this broadcast with someone else. And yes, the YouTube is youtube.com/at Life Nation KC, or you can look up the channel Life Nation KC, all one word. Take care and be well. All right. We are over on our YouTube and we are continuing our talk back. And we've got about 15 minutes today. I'm going to send you the link. All right, so I have sent you the link and hopefully you got it. I didn't want to take any chances with Facebook because we know what happened last time. They just yanked our broadcast and it just went goodbye. But if you are here for the first time, let me know. I see Katina. Hey, Katina. Glad you can join me today. And there we go. And you are added. All right. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you see me? It's taking a moment to connect here. There we go. All right. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
Okay, where do we start?
Wherever you want to start.
Because this one
This
was
one was
deep.
deep. Well, most people on here know I've
I've
been
been
talking
talking
about
about black women
Mm-hmm.
and how powerful they are
Mm-hmm.
and how much they're needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Black women, they can produce every skin tone.
Yep.
Nobody else can do that. They also here recently. Let's talk about recent activities.
Okay.
Certain demographics are asking where are the black people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're specifically asking for black
women.
women.
True.
Why
Why
is that?
is that?
Just think
Just
about
think
that now.
about that
Why
now.
is
Why
that?
is that?
Because
Because
they
they
know
know
deep down
deep down
inside, they know
inside they know
black women
black
get
women get
stuff
stuff
done.
done.
Mm-hmm.
They know
They
that.
know that.
Would they
Would
come
they
out
come
and
out
say
and
that
say
and give
that and
them
give them
credit?
credit?
For the
For
most
the
part,
most part,
no.
no. No.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Very
heard
people
very few
say that.
people say
Very
that.
few.
Very few.
But as
But
the guy
as the
lied
guy
before, the
lied
guy that you
before,
were
the
reading
guy that
about,
you
he lied
about, he
Mm-hmm.
lied
about black
about
women
black
being
women being
liars.
liars.
Mm-hmm.
But yet,
But yet,
when we look
when we
at
look at
today's
today's
situation,
situation,
it ain't
it
the
ain't the
black
black
woman that's
woman that's
lying.
lying.
Listen.
Black
Black
woman
woman
told
told
y'all
y'all
what
what
was
was
going to
gonna
happen.
happen.
She
She
didn't
didn't
lie.
lie.
But
But that other
that other
person
person
lied
lied
and had his
and had
whole
his whole
party
party
lying
lying
for him.
for him.
And now
And
look
now
where
look
we
where
are.
we are.
I'm gonna
I'm
be
going to be
peace. It's
peace.
gonna be
It's going to
total
be total
peace. I'm
peace.
gonna
I'm going
end
to end
wars. I'm gonna
wars. I'm going
start
to
no
start
new
no new
wars.
wars.
I'm gonna
I'm
lower
going to lower
gas
gas
prices and
prices and
egg
egg
prices
prices
on
on
day
day
one.
one.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
How many?
How many,
How many
how
of
many
those
of those
promises has
promises
he?
has he kept?
Zero.
Because he's a liar. He lied to get your votes.
But
What he
here
He
again
knew
with.
what he
but
had
here's
planned
the
on doing to
thing.
begin with.
The people who voted for this the second time, they cannot
Yeah.
they cannot
Yeah.
feign or they cannot pretend that they did not know. See,
Right.
the problem
Right.
with them coming now and saying, I didn't know what he was, I was wrong, is you knew what he was. You knew what he was in 2020. You knew what he was in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
When 1.2 million people died under his watch the first time, you knew what he was
Mm-hmm.
then. Please tell me, in the history of presidencies, where 1.2 million Americans died from what could have been prevented. I want somebody to go do the research on that. When you could trace back to a president and his direct actions that led to 1.2 million people dying, and it was not a war. That's why I said to myself, I said, these people had 1.2 million reasons to say no to a second term.
I said
I
the
said
same
the same
thing.
thing.
And the fact that you chose to say yes after 1.2 million people died on U.S. soil and it was not a war, you now expect me to believe that you didn't know what he was this second time around? All of the lies that he told the first time when media
Mm-hmm.
was not in his pocket and when they were tracking his lies for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they don't track his lies. Now they just let him lie. But before media was in his pocket, they would track his lies. When he got up to speak, right? They would have a whole little thing going next to him, a live feed of tracking his lies and fact checking him in real time. They did that the first round. So you knew then he was a pathological liar. So you're trying to tell me now,
Mm-hmm.
now you understand he's a pathological liar and you didn't understand that the first time? This is why people say that some of y'all are playing in our face.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that has changed this time is that you are more directly affected by what he is doing. That is what has changed.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Because you thought he was going to come in and welcome packs. You thought he was going to come in and complete the annihilation of black people. That's what you were hoping to see. You were hoping for him to be
Mm-hmm.
the wipeout of black people, people of color, indigenous people, LGBTQIA people. You thought that you were just going to sit back, watch him wipe everything out, cheer him on, and still hold yourself back from, well, I didn't personally do it. He did it. That's what you guys thought was going to happen. But that didn't happen. Because what some people fail to understand is when we say that black people in this country have been in a underclass, a permanent underclass, when you're already down on the dust and in the dust, there ain't nowhere else to go. That's what people fail to understand. The safety nets were holding together the poor white people. The safety nets were giving poor white people the illusion that they were doing better than they were.
Mm-hmm.
Because black people had been denied the safety nets, or very little of the safety nets that we had. And so the propaganda was black people are taking all your stuff. The propaganda was black people are getting all the welfare. The propaganda was black people are getting all the free services. But no, they weren't. Black people had been denied the free services and were coming up with, and still are coming up with, ways that they have supported themselves. People talk about living off the grid all the time. Black people have been living off the grid for quite some time. Most black people have been living off the grid for quite some time because they have been denied even some of the social safety nets.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pull those social safety nets, all of a sudden, white, poor white people are feeling it. White men are feeling it. Farmers, white farmers are feeling it because black farmers wouldn't get it to begin with.
Mm-mm.
White farmers are feeling it. White rural areas are feeling it. Now you're sending their sons and daughters home in a casket and you can't even respect that. Now we got a problem. White women and white men are being pew pewed in the street in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got a problem because the mask is off. See, the propaganda was to get you to accept a reign of terror for everybody else, not understanding that the reign of terror was actually coming for you. Because once again, black people have been experiencing the reign of terror. And they've been telling you, and they've been pleading, and they've been saying, we've got to, you guys have got to stop this. You guys have got to put people in that care about human beings. We are the test subject. We are the test
Mm-hmm.
subject. We're not the main subject. And black people have been saying this over and over and over and over and over again. And now here we are, and they're on to the main subject. They're on to the main subject. The main subject is we think 99% of y'all just should not exist. That's the main subject. The main subject is it's never been just about getting rid of black people. It's been about getting rid of most people and keeping the resource
Mm-hmm.
and keeping the resources for ourselves. That's what it's been about. And so black people have tried to tell you this. We've tried to warn, we've tried to say, listen, they're not just after us. They're after everybody. And people have insisted on not listening. And here we are.
Yep. It's listen. They found out, didn't they?
They're finding out. They're
They
finding
found
out.
out.
And so
Not.
now, even the Supreme Court, when you have the Supreme Court, the person that you put in there to do your evil bidding saying, you've got to stop talking like this about the people you put in power. I'm like, oh, he don't get it either.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't get it either. You were put in power, sir, to make sure I get all the power. And when I get all
Mm-hmm.
the power, you are no longer useful to me either. Justice Roberts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The look
This
you're
I
not
don't
seeing
know.
his face.
And see, I've been trying to figure out how do you vote for him a second time, much less a third time, but yet here you are. You got people that did it three times.
Yeah.
When he made it in that second time, they were like celebrating. Uh, like think they're sticking it to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to get the stick? Because he stuck it to you.
It can't feel good.
He just literally said, and here's the thing. He told you to your faces that he was going to use you.
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't get it.
I mean, they mapped out, like they said, they mapped out Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, there's a Project 2026. There's the Esther Project, which is what they plan to do to women, because Roe v. Wade was just the first step. We told people back in 2015 about Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
We came out of a meeting because back then we were in some of the conservative circles, listening to some of their plans. And in their meeting, in their 2015 meeting, it was a room full of attorneys. And in that room full of attorneys, they were talking about expanding rights for the religious, namely the Christians and the Christian churches. They were talking
Christian
about
nationalists.
They were talking about stacking the Supreme Court so that they could start overturning rulings like Roe v. Wade. We came out of that meeting. We told the black community, look, this is what's coming down the pipeline. These people are trying to roll back civil rights. People looked at us like we were crazy. I'm like, we were literally in the meeting where all the attorneys for the Republicans were sitting around having conversations about how they could do this. Then they turned around and partnered with the Heritage Foundation, and the Heritage Foundation became the ones that put together the written plan of how they were going to do it. That written plan came out. Joy Reid got on her show and she was reading from and teaching from the plan for several shows, going through it and telling people this is what they plan to do if they get in office. After all of that, and that was broadcast on national television, after all that, people still chose to go in to their booth and vote in techno fascism, basically. That is what happened. That is what happened.
Are you there?
I'm here. I saw you
Okay.
went off for a moment. But what I was saying is they came out of that attorney meeting. They created Project 2025 with the partnership of the Heritage Foundation. And even Joy Reid got on her television show when she was on mainstream media. I think that's one of the reasons why they let her go. She got up there and she detailed Project 2025, made sure people knew what was in it, and then they still voted even after knowing what was in Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
He told them before, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what Project 2025 is. Day one of his presidency, he said, aha, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Day one, he said that. Day one, he mocked people to say, oh, we knew what Project 2025 was, and we finna implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Day one, he started mocking people
Yep.
who didn't think that he knew, because he lied, like he always does.
Here's the thing. The fact that he always lies,
Mm-hmm.
why do you even believe anything he says? That's the ironic part.
I can
You know the
only
man is a habitual liar.
I can only guess that a lot more people than we think put up with habitual liars in their life. That's the only other thing I can think of. The only reason why you can accept this amount of lies is that you have habitual liars in your life that you put up with. Because if somebody was habitually lying to me, I wouldn't be putting up with it. It's, to me, that's kind of, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts. I know we didn't get Terry saying. But final thoughts.
Again,
Again,
black
black
women
women,
are the most
they are the
powerful
most
beings on
powerful
this
beings on
planet.
this planet.
I know people
I
would
know people would
disagree with me on
disagree with me
that,
on that,
but it's
but
been
it's been
proven over
proven
and
over
over
and
and
over
over.
and over.
They're the
They're
most
the most
intelligent
intelligent
beings on
beings
this
on this
planet.
planet.
That's been
That's been
proven
proven
over and
over and
over and
over and
over.
over.
And they
And they
will
will
find a
find a
way
way
to
to
get
get
stuff
stuff
done.
done.
Now,
Now,
that
that
being
being
said,
said,
with
with
black
black
women
women
having
having these
these
abilities,
abilities,
it kind
it
of
spreads
spreads
throughout the
throughout the
black
black
community.
community.
That's why we
That's
can
why
live
we
off
can
the
live
grid.
off the
See,
grid.
we
See, we
learned to
learned to
adjust
adjust
because
because
we
we
were
were
pushed
pushed
down
down
to
to
the
the
bottom
bottom
rung,
rung,
in
in
the
the
dirt
dirt
and
and
in
in
the
the
mud.
mud.
We
We learned
learned
how
how
to
to
survive
survive
in the
in the
mud.
mud. That's why all this
That's
stuff
why
ain't
all this stuff
bothering
ain't
us.
bothering us.
All we can say
All we
is
can
we
say is
told
we
you so
told you so
and keep
and
moving.
keep moving.
Because again, what can be done? We've created a nation, and I say it this way. Yes, there are a percentage of us, right? There are a percentage of us that are not in the underclass. But the great
Hmm.
majority of black people in America are in the underclass. You created a society that has pushed black people down, 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 down to the bottom. And now you want the people who are the most disenfranchised to so called rise up and lead you out of what you've created. And the reality is, you in this time, you're gonna have to lead yourself.
Hmm.
You're gonna have to
Hmm.
get the fortitude to lead yourself because of the way that you've allowed us to be placed in this system.
Hmm.
Hmm.
A lot of black people's hands are tied. That's the reality. I'm gonna give us some data in just a moment because I want people to understand this. Okay, there are roughly, look at this, this is the data collected as of 2023. 8.4 to 8.5 million black Americans live below the official poverty line, representing a poverty rate of nearly 20%. While this represents a historic low, we are disproportionately affected with poverty rates twice as high as those for non Hispanic white Americans. Child poverty rate: 22.3% of black children under 18 lived in poverty in 2022, with some estimates including 24% by 2023. 22% of black people experience food insecurity in 2023. That means for every 10 black people you meet, two of them are experiencing food insecurity. In some areas, such as DC, the disparity is higher, with the poverty rate at almost 30%. Black Americans are 2.3 to 2.4 times more likely to be poor than non Hispanic white Americans. Okay? So, what does that mean? That means that the people at the bottom are focused in on survival and care in the best ways they know how. That's what that means. It means that they understand that nobody is coming to save them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And when people are at that point of poverty, for you to come by and say, well, why don't y'all do something about what's happening? You sound delusional. You sound delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's look at this. White people below the poverty line, okay? While white Americans have a lower rate of poverty compared to most other racial groups, they constitute the largest absolute number of people living below the poverty line. 19.5 million white Americans live below the poverty line, representing the largest single group by race in poverty. They are the largest single group by race in poverty, but they have been made to feel that they are richer because they're white.
Mm-hmm.
I want y'all to think about that. Low income, non Hispanic white populations are heavily concentrated in rural areas. It's often high in rural, industrial, or mining regions. Guess who are the people who voted for harm to come to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are the poorest voted for harm to come to other people. Rather than vote for someone who would have helped to lift them out of poverty, they chose someone who would bring harm to the poor people who don't look like them. That was the choice made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Again,
it
it
wasn't the
wasn't the
black
black
lady
lady
that
that
lied.
lied.
Listen to this.
And I'm
Working
I'm
class,
done.
working class white people are the significant beneficiaries of the federal safety net programs. The data indicates that the government program lifts 44% of otherwise poor whites out of poverty. In other words, even the whites who are doing better than the ones below poverty are only doing better because of the social safety nets in place. My God and my God.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
So if you were appearing to be middle class, when they get done yanking these safety nets, because they're actually bringing another bill to cut it again, when they are done bringing these cuts, you're going to be below the poverty line once they remove these safety nets. Remember, black people are already below the poverty line or at the poverty line. So when they do this, they are in fact telling their most avid supporter, we don't really care about you. Thank you for your vote, but we're going to put some more holes in your boat and sink it. That is what they are ultimately saying. And not only are we going to sink your boat, but we're going to demand that you give us your sons and your daughters. Maybe not your daughters. Maybe you can keep your daughters because we're going to use those as incubators later. But we definitely want your sons for this unsanctioned war. So we're going to send you below the poverty line. We're going to take your sons for an unsanctioned war. So even as you get older, you're not going to have children. You won't have children to take care of you because we're taking them for our unsanctioned war. And the girl children that you have, we're going to use them as incubators for breeding more children for our war machine. So that is the plan that's going down in America for white people below the poverty line and at the poverty line. And you could have had a president with a funny laugh, but you chose the person with
Mm-hmm.
34 felonies. I mean, what do you expect us to do about it? There's not much we can do about it. But midterms are coming. Midterms are coming. And you have an opportunity. You got a small window to right the ship by getting all of these people out who are sitting there allowing this man to wreak havoc on the nation. You have an opportunity to
Yep.
put people in that on day one will enact the 25th Amendment or put forth articles of impeachment. And they know this. This is why they're fighting so hard to prevent you from voting. Because they know if all their cronies are put out to the side of the curb come midterms, they know it's either 25th Amendment or articles of impeachment or both.
Mm-hmm.
So they are trying to gear up for the fight. They're trying to gear up, and we've got to gear up too. And good morning to you, Leslie. So this has been our time today. I know we've gone way over our mark here, but I want to thank you for your time and your attention. This has been our talk back portion of our broadcast today. This will air in about 24 hours. You'll be able to see it. So if you came in on the tail end, you can catch the replay on tomorrow. Take care, everyone, and remember, light is the most daring opposition to evil. So go out and be what?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. Be well and be light.